I mean, when we're talking about these houses and we use this $150,000 range, is that the kind of range that you're talking about in Macon right now, or what's the range and what do these look like? Right. Hey, everybody, this is Meika Darville. Welcome to an awesome video that I have here for you. And today I have Mike. Mike, you're going to have to tell me how to pronounce your last name. Give it a go.
Pugliese.
Pugliese. All right, everybody, I got Mike Pugliese. We're going to have a great session here. So let me tell you a little bit about how I met Mike. I I was a target of a Facebook ad, if you can believe it, to go to an event last year in Raleigh called the Private Money Club. And I paid a couple $100 because I was really interested in spending some money I had in a self-directed retirement account. And I was interested in just kind of learning all about the behind the scenes around private money. Fantastic event, put on by some great folks. But I happened to encounter Mike because Mike and his business partner were presenters there. They were presenting some opportunities. I was able to talk to Mike afterwards. And ultimately, I purchased a single family home rental from Mike and his team. And he'll, I'm sure, talk about how all of that works. And they handle the property management. And it's, but we're going on almost a year now, right?
Yes,
Almost a year.
almost a year.
And it's a nice cash flowing asset. It's going straight back into my retirement account. Doesn't have to be retirement accounts. If you got active money that you want to put into an asset like real estate, this is going to be a good opportunity. So with that, Mike, why don't you tell the audience a little bit about yourself, what you're doing and how long you've been doing it?
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I love sharing something I'm real passionate about, which is real estate. I've been investing in real estate I started in 2015. I started investing in real estate. I bought my first rental property in Georgia. And when I tell people how much I bought the property for, they fall over. It was for $13,000. And
Wow,
was
that's really good.
Yeah, I got lucky on that one. That was good timing on that one.
Mhm.
But I bought my first property. It was a rental property. And the reason I bought this property because I had learned something called cash on cash return, a napkin analysis, and I did the return on this property. It was 13,000 producing $450 a month in rent. And I was like, wow, this is a great return. So
Mhm.
I bought it and bought it, had a tenant, and kind of grew from there, and have been investing ever since. Full time now for the last 4 years. I was doing it part time, and then it kind of grew into the business we have today here in Georgia, in the middle Georgia area. I invest anywhere from Macon to Griffin and manage properties for other clients all over the country in this area. And, I've been through the ups and downs in real estate. I've learned a lot and I continue to learn every day, which is good for the clients I do work with because they learn from some of my mistakes. And that's been valuable for some of them. And I've been glad to share what I've learned with some people because it does help in the future for them to get into their first investment property or more. We've had a client buy one and they went on bought 12 properties with us,
Mhm.
helping another client do the same thing, grow their portfolio. And that's something we're real passionate about.
That's great. It can be a little intimidating getting into your first one, right? Because you don't know what to expect. You don't know what kinds of problems could occur. You hear nightmare stories about, being a landlord and awful tenants. So it's great that you're able to come alongside them and help make that a smooth process and then grow from there. I love that. So you've been in this business for a while now, and tell us a little bit about your company, how it's structured, kind of what you do in terms of finding the properties, bringing the properties to investors. How does all that work?
One of the biggest lessons I've learned in this business is real estate's about building relationships. And we have done a really good job here in the middle Georgia area about building relationships. I have two types of businesses. I have a active real estate business where we do renovations, flip properties, and then I have a passive income business where we own rentals. And then we have actually a management company where we manage our rentals for other people. And people come to us for a couple different reasons. One is they come to us because they want to get in the passive income side and they like, to look at our opportunities here in Macon and Middle Georgia. And then some people actually come to us where they just want to be a lender and lend money on deals.
Mhm.
We have had more people come to us recently about the turnkey side and want to learn about rental properties. And we structure that business up to where, we'll buy an undervalued asset. We go and put the work into it, raise the rents, get it cash flowing, and then turn around and sell that asset to an investor just like yourself on day one, it's producing rents. And we mitigate risk with that by, having systems in place on how to find good tenants. Sometimes it's on assisted living or Section 8, which always helps, things of that nature. So we mitigate that risk to turn it over to this client, and day one they're making cash, and hopefully they make cash every month after. There are things that come up, as you know, but we
Mhm.
handle those things for clients, and it makes it a very easy process. I think a lot of people, when they come to us, they feel like they have to be really involved in this, and they don't. This can be a passive income investment for them where they own an asset, we're managing the asset, or another property manager is managing this asset, and they're dealing with some, hey, they might get an email, hey, there's a maintenance issue or something like that, but they're not on the ground, which we are. We're the boots on the ground here, where we're managing these properties right at the level of we're in them, we're finding tenants, dealing with collections, things like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, my experience has been great. Now, I was looking for passive truly because I'm trying to stay in line with the IRS rules, right? I'm using a self-directed account. So I can't pick up a paintbrush. I can't do anything that's, actively involved in the property. So it's been great to have your property management side. We had the occasional maintenance request, nothing outlandish or outside of the, expected norm of what happens with wear and tear on a property over the past year. So it's been really hands off for me. Occasionally I have to, there's a couple of bills that I have to pay directly using my custodian that, you guys aren't able to pay directly. That's just the way the city requires or somebody in government somewhere requires. But overall, it's, I mean, I don't even think about it hardly ever, except I get an occasional email about something that I need to say, yeah, let's, go ahead and do that minor repair, and then the checks cash, and they end up in the account, and it's been great. Why so you live in Georgia then, right? And then you kind of stayed in that vicinity. Like, what do you love about the area that you're operating in, and how have you seen it evolve as you from when you started to now?
Well, I tell you, so people always ask, I'm from Florida originally. I lived on the coast in Florida near Fort Myers, and they asked me, well, how did you end up in Georgia? I said, well, love will make you do some crazy things. So I moved to the
There you
middle of
go.
Georgia and fall and a best move I ever made. And I tell people that. I love the ocean, I love the water, but when you love something more than that, you'll do those things and move away. And it's been a really great move. In middle Georgia, the Griffin, Macon area, I fell in love with the people here are great, but then on the investing side, there's a lot of factors, affordability, the growth here is continuing to grow. People always ask me, where is Macon? And I always say, well, a lot of people know where Atlanta is. I said it's about an hour, 15 minutes south of Atlanta and about an hour and 15 minutes due west of Savannah. It's right in the middle there. So I went to Macon 7 years ago and I saw this opportunity. It was a light bulb. Mercer University, which is a really big university, state university, they were redeveloping some areas around there. And I started asking questions. They're like, yeah, they have plans to knock this down and redevelop this block. And they did. And I started buying properties and and then it kind of just snowballed from there. And now Macon has become a hot spot for investors and people moving there because of the affordability factor. It's very affordable in Macon. Still, anyone coming from Atlanta, they might rent a one bedroom, one bath apartment for, $1,700 to $2,000. Where in Macon, someone can get a house for a nice house, 3 bedroom, two bath house for 1,500.
That's
So
great. Yeah,
yeah,
that's
it
making
really
much
is
more affordable for
much more affordable.
families and people, working people who really need that, right?
They
Yeah.
need that. I think it's a big need that needs to be fulfilled is affordable housing. And investors like us, we can fulfill that for people out there by providing rental properties. And we've been able to do that for sure. And that's a good thing. And, some things have just changed. It's just people are now, what used to be a 60-minute circle they would draw around a city, where people would travel for work. Now it's 90 minutes because of the affordability factor. So what we're seeing in Atlanta is people are moving out of Atlanta because they can't afford it anymore and they're coming south.
Wow.
So that's
Yeah,
what's
that's been happening certainly here in the Raleigh area, and I'm sure some of our audience can point that out in their markets too, as people, and plus some people gotten a little tired of living in the bigger cities with the expenses, and COVID kind of shifted everything for folks, right? They in some cases they can work in a different location and they found a place that's more affordable for them. So that's not a bad thing. Um, how are things today in Macon, and how is it in terms of finding properties? Like, what have you had to do now compared to a couple of years ago in finding those properties for your investors and for your business?
That's a great question. 5 years ago, it was like shooting fish in a barrel. It was easy to find properties. There was plenty of them. Now we're a lot of off-market relationships. We are advertising to find off-market deals. So it's got a little more competitive to find the good deals. We're able to find them. It's taken a little more work than it did 5 years ago to find a deal, but
Mhm.
at the end, there's a lot more buyers today looking for these type of properties if they're done right and they're
Yeah.
producing cash flow, which is a good thing. So there's a demand there for it, especially in the SFR space, single family residence and houses too. I've seen a lot of tenants with families, they want a house. So there's a demand for that in Macon. And, that's what we're trying to fulfill out there. And we're growing outwards too, some in Griffin, Barnesville, we manage properties in Forsyth. So that whole middle Georgia area, we're starting to grow and looking for opportunities in there.
That's great. That's really good. So talk a little bit about how you work with investors, how you come alongside them, when they if they like do you have a lot of properties right now that you're trying to put into investors' hands? Talk a little bit about how it's going.
Absolutely. Like a client will come to us and they're interested in buying a rental property. We have properties available right now, which they can start taking a look at. We walk them through that process and, hey, are you going to use a self-directed retirement account? Are you going to be using cash? Are they going to be doing financing, things that nature? And basically, it's a real estate transaction. We let them look at the numbers. We let them look at the analysis on the property. If they need some help understanding it, I'll never give like financial advice, like you need to do this. But I will say, hey, this is what the numbers are. This is what the market says, and give them enough data to kind of look at it where it doesn't confuse them, but where it makes sense.
Hmm.
The thing about real estate, which I have learned personally, is that if you hold on to it long enough, there's a really good chance you're going to make money.
Hmm.
And there's a really good chance you're going to make a good amount of money if you hold on long enough. And that's been the beautiful part about real estate and why a lot of people put their money into real estate because of those that they know if they hold on long enough, they're going to make money. And, some clients like yourself, they have a self-directed retirement account and, that could be tax deferred or some cases tax free.
Right.
So not only are they making money on the cash flow, right? They're making money on appreciation. You
Hmm.
know, take a general, let's say $100,000 house and it just appreciates $3,000 a year. That's 3,000 on top of the 100, that at 103 it's 3% and so forth. And then, you're making money on that cash flow and then the tax savings for someone like you. There's some tax savings that you have to calculate into the return. That's the one thing I've learned is you just don't want to look at one number. You want to
Hmm.
look at different numbers. Like on some of my properties, it's four ways we're making money. We're making money on appreciation. We're making money on depreciation. I'm depreciating that asset every single year. We're making money on cash flow. And then some of them we have loans and we're making a principal buy down, right? Either we're responsible for paying the mortgage, but if it's rented, then the tenant's paying that mortgage, the cash flow's
Hmm.
coming in, paying the note. So that's an overall return. So when you would look at something and go, oh, this is only 8 to 9% on a cap rate, but overall, if you add those things in, it becomes a 20+% return on that investment. And that's just really hard to find in today's market.
Yeah, that's very powerful, actually. There's some folks that I used to work with. A lot of them are in Florida. They're in California. Some people are in Washington. They're in states where when you talk about $150,000 property, they want to know what that looks like because for them in their markets, they don't have that concept, right? Their properties, even the less ideal looking ones, are quite expensive, right? So I mean, when we're talking about these houses and we use this $150,000 range, is that the kind of range that you're talking about in Macon right now, or what's the range and what do these look like?
Yeah, good question. I mean, these are anywhere from 120 to now 160,000 is the price range, sometimes a little
Yeah.
less, sometimes a little bit more, right? And some of these properties we renovated. I'll show you some pictures here on one we just renovated, where, we went in and put new floors in. We painted new cabinets, new countertops, right? It has new plumbing. The roof is new on this property. So there's some factors in there that it's a new property, and that investment in that property is $147,000. So, and it's on the market to rent right now for 1475. So it's got a good return there. So there's some of those. And then there's some properties that, there's tenants that have been in there a while and they don't plan on leaving. And they haven't been updated, but they're a good cash flowing asset. So we have those type of properties too. At any given time, I have anywhere from 2 to 5 properties available for clients to buy. I'm always trying to work on renovating properties, turn them into turnkeys, and then selling them. And people ask, why don't you just keep them all yourself? And I'm like, well, it's a business for me, so it makes sense for me to sell some of these assets. I make a profit, reinvest the money, and do it again. And then, us keeping long-term rentals also. And I think a lot of people, I've talked to other investors, they love that I own properties and I invest too. It's a big thing for them. They're like,
It is, yeah.
yeah, they're like, I feel comfortable like you, and I own the same properties in the same market. So I understand what it's like to sit in your seat on the other side, and I understand being the manager too, and making everything work.
I think that's really good, because you then know your market really well. You're eating your own dog food. I don't like the dog food reference, maybe, it's kind of, but you know where I'm going.
I know
Uh,
exactly what you're saying.
I think that's just an important thing when somebody's vetting who they're gonna, work with and invest their money with, is they want to know about their expertise, and they want to know that they're putting their own money where their mouth is. So that's great. Um, the kinds of investors at this point that you're working with, are you seeing still people with, some people doing loans, some people bringing cash? Like who's coming to you now more to make these purchases? Is it changed? Is it the same as it was a few years ago?
I mean, it's definitely. I've had, there's some cash. There are a couple of last sales have been cash. And then we've had, I would say 30% has been retirement accounts,
Mm,
right? 35% to 40 has been cash, and then the other has been financing,
okay.
for sure. But it's those three. I see a lot more of the retirement accounts coming too because they see the benefit long term.
Hmm.
And when you're using a retirement account, you're not expecting that immediate cash flow. So you're really playing the long game, and in rental real estate, playing the long game is when you can really win for sure.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
definitely,
Because I'm getting the benefit of both the cash flow that I am getting, plus the appreciation that's going on in the market. Now, I don't get the depreciation side. And I know that there's some of my, followers and listeners who they've got active income. They're going to be looking for ways, alternative to the stock market, put some money in where, things could help them maybe offset some of their tax burden coming off of the depreciation and whatnot. So, I mean, there there's a lot of different ways, I guess we're all saying, that this can be done. Now, on the financing side, my experience is you got to put certain percentage down, right? So you're seeing people put 25, 30% down and financing the rest. And do you connect them to financing, or you have them bring their own?
I have some people that they can talk to, and then they go through the process with them. We have no relationships with any lenders or anything like that, but I have lenders that either I've used or they can talk to. There's a couple different types of loans out there for investors. There's something called a DSCR loan, which is a debt
Mhm.
service coverage ratio loan, which for an investor like us, where you don't have to, it's not a full doc loan. They're not looking at your W-2s, tax returns. They will look at liquidity, track record, and then they're going to look at the asset. What does this asset produce? A lot of those type of lenders are going to want to see what they call a 1.25 DSCR ratio, debt service coverage ratio, which means there's basically 25 cents left over after that dollar spent paying all the expenses is what they're going to want to see.
Which is
And
why
then
the down payment becomes important, because that's lowering their overall, cost and and their payment on the loan, so that you can make those numbers work most likely. And I think 20 to 25% down, sometimes 30% down right now is kind of what those guys are asking for.
yeah, minimum's 20, depending on what type of loan on refis is 25% minimum.
Okay.
And then, some people could put down more. It all depends. I did have a gentleman do a loan where he did use his retirement account as the down payment, then finance the rest. It was a non-recourse loan. I don't know how his retirement account was set up to do that, but I know they did it. It was a non-recourse loan. With that loan, his interest rate was higher because it's
Mm-hmm.
non-recourse, and he did have to put more money down. But
Yeah.
the nice part about that is that money, the down payment came from his retirement account. I don't
Once
know.
I do one of those things, because I do plan on doing something along those lines, I'm definitely making a video about it for sure,
Yeah.
because that's a very interesting way. You have to be, leverage is great, but you have to be quite careful about it. Of course, on the non-recourse side, if you don't, they can't come after your retirement account in that case. They'll just take the asset if somehow you're not paying the loan off and stuff. But that's really interesting that somebody's done that with you. So that's something we should explore more down the road for sure. So in terms of risks, right? What are some of the things that maybe you're seeing other investors do in your market and the things that you're doing in your business to mitigate the risks that are out there right now? I don't even know, like, what are some of the risks? I suppose, um, you know, a property that on the surface looks okay, but maybe as you dig deeper, it's not nearly at the quality level and it turns out it needs a lot of work. Like, just talk about, risk mitigation that you're applying.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, yeah, like some of these properties you get in, it might be old wiring, could be an older roof, which you want to look at, an older HVAC. Those are what those capital expenditures, deferred maintenance items, like you're just saying.
Mhm.
Is that going to come up in the first 5 years? That would affect the overall picture of the investment, right?
Yeah.
So if you know that the roof is really old and year three could be a replacement, it's not. I'm not. I wouldn't not buy the property, but I would get a discount for the roof being replaced, right?
Mhm.
So there's
Right.
a discount, but I have to factor in that capital expenditure on year three, and it will affect the overall cash flow of the asset, right? Stuff like that you want to look at, right? Those major items, especially in a rental property, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, roof, hot water heater, those are big ticket items, right? That something come up, it'll eat into cash flow. So we try to look at that, and especially when we offer our clients, I try my best with some of these properties. Hey, brand new ACs, brand new roof, if we're renovating them, so they have a warranty with that. They don't have to worry about something big coming up. Sometimes things do happen, things do come up, but we try our best when we're renovating these to kind of eliminate some of those as best we can. The only
That's
uncontro
good.
the only uncontrollable thing sometimes is a tenant. I
Yeah, we all know that at some point. We experience that for sure.
yeah, so that's one of the things we can't control, but we try to mitigate that with the property management company. I have an amazing team at the property management company. I mean, they do an amazing job. Their communication, our systems we're starting to put in place, and as we grow, we get more systems to help mitigate some of this. We are starting to underwrite tenants like you'd underwrite a loan, and things like that.
Oh.
So, because the one thing that can hurt an investor from experience, and this has happened, is that you put a tenant in the property, 2 months, you're filing an eviction, then you're 6 days behind, then you got to put work into the property, then you're investing more money.
Mhm.
So instead of trying to, hey, let's rush someone to this property, let's get it rented, being a little more picky, underwriting, pricing it right for the market, and finding a good quality tenant is our goal with the management side. So sometimes we wait to find a
Yeah,
good tenant, right?
that makes total sense. Like, have you found, you know, some key rules that you put in place? Like, with these, we will not accept tenants that, have these situations, this criteria. What does that look like?
You got to have guidelines, especially with fair housing. And, we're a licensed property management company. So there's guidelines you have to have, and the guidelines have to be the same, right? So our guidelines are 2.5 times the rent. So they got to gross 2.5 times. No prior evictions in the last 5 years, no bankruptcies in the last 5 years, right? We ask for a landlord reference, right? Do they have a
That
reference?
makes all the difference. All of those things make a huge difference
Huge
in
difference.
getting a
Yep.
good tenant for sure.
Yep. And then we've started on, on some rentals, on the affordable housing side with Section 8, the government pays, as you know, a good portion of that, sometimes 100%. So the tenant's portion could be a couple $100 or $100 or sometimes no money at all. And, we just do a background check, credit report, and we do make sure that they can afford that portion of their rent. And the good part about the housing authority is they also will every year they qualify that tenant for that rent. So if they start making more money, they increase the rent. If they make less money, they decrease the rent, things like that. So there's some checks and balances on that side. And then on our side with the regular tenant, we've gotten to the point now where we're going to check, a bank statement. We want to see bank statements, money coming in, money going out. Can they afford it? What are the other bills they have? Questions like that, where you just learn to ask those questions and qualify and make sure, because you don't want to put them in and this is what I've learned. Someone could really want a property really bad, and they could, oh, I love this property, I want it, but they can't afford it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you don't want to put them in a bad situation. So by having these systems and checks and balances, you're not putting someone in a bad situation where you would have to take legal action if they don't pay the rent. And that's just never fun. So if you can eliminate that up front, it makes it a lot easier in the long run.
Yeah, because you're gonna have, they're not paying. So of course they're behind on the rent, so that's money that you didn't receive. And then you're paying something to go through an eviction process. You got a lot of drama around getting them out. Sometimes even the police are involved, right? I mean, there's a lot of steps. And then if they've damaged the property, you've got to fix it back up, or maybe it needs a lot more repairs. That can be very costly situations. So doing that proper planning and finding the right tenant up front saves you a lot of cost and headache for sure.
It
Yeah,
does.
we've had we've had our own challenges. We've had cat lady, 30 cats and the amount of damage that those things cause, right? I mean, everybody's got these horror stories of tenants and you learn from those and you apply better systems, as you're saying.
Absolutely. I mean, we've even started now as leases are renewing, we force liability insurance. So if they don't have renters, they must. Our new lease states that they have to have renters insurance. If they don't provide renters insurance, they sign an amendment to this lease saying that we can force liability insurance on them for this amount. And what that does is it covers the investor, right? It
Yeah.
covers the property owner. I just recently had a tenant, unfortunately, the child flushed something down the toilet, which happens. It caused a backup. That backup was now, we turned it over to liability insurance. It was covered. So they covered the backup. Insurance company wrote a check, which is going back to the property owner, which is great. So it's a little protection there. And then liability, you just want to be covered, and we do force that for sure.
That's a good plan. That's a very good plan. So let's see. I think we've covered all of the things that I had in mind. I guess why don't you tell us a little bit about but the kind of opportunities you have right now? What are some of the properties that you have? And what does that look like?
So basically, I have two opportunities right now available. I had three. One went under contract last week, but we have two opportunities right now. One is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath home in Macon. It's in what they call Jones County. So Macon has Bibb County, which is most of Macon, and there's Jones County where it has better schools. So a lot of people want to live in Jones County because of that. But I have a 3 bedroom, 2 bath house in Jones County, and that property has a good tenant in it. They've been in it for 6 months now. We have owned the property for over 2 years. We just put a new roof on it. We also has the AC is HVAC's less than 5 years old and has a new hot water heater. We did do some small minor renovations when the tenant moved out, some painting, new fixtures, things like that. The price on that property is $139,000 for that one. And I'll send you the details in a report after this so you can share with
Yeah,
your
that'd be great. Thank you.
clients. So that one's available right now. It is cash flowing as we speak. And then I have another one we just finished. Now this is a 4 bedroom, 1 bath. It is in Macon. We just finished a renovation. This one has a metal roof, which is good. That's usually a 40-year roof. It also has, we just did a renovation where we put LVP floors throughout the whole property. Has a new plumbing, new bathtub, new surround, new vanity, new cabinets. The HVAC is 2022 and the hot water heater is 2022. So it's not as old. It's still under warranty. And this one is on the market to rent for 13.25. We just put it on, and we have a couple people filling out applications. They've seen it, so they want to work through the process. So I should have that rented in the next, I would say, probably week or two. And that one is 125,000.
Okay. Now, I recall something. So I believe in the property I own, we have a Section 8 tenant, and that
Yes.
can sort of cause some investors to question, hey, what does that mean? I don't know what that is. Isn't, are those people, running rundown houses with people who aren't paying their rent sort of thing. So maybe talk a little bit about, your dive into that side of it and how that's been working out for you and what you would do to reassure investors who really just don't know what it is.
Section 8, I mean, they have guidelines. So, I mean, Section 8 does an inspection of the property every year. We do annual inspections on the properties too. Section 8 does an inspection. They'll want certain guidelines, certain things need to be fixed in the house for sure. And then, so once a year, you might get a report where they're going to want these items fixed. It really all depends. I've noticed that sometimes with people who pay a small portion of the rent and then Section 8 covers the rest, no problems with tenants. And then I've seen some where the 100% is paid and there could be some issues. It really all depends on the wear and tear on the property. Sometimes Section 8 properties get a little more wear and tear than some other properties, but the benefit of Section 8 is that rent comes in every single month. It's paid, and that's where investors like that. And it's affordability. There you are providing affordable housing, and there's a great need for that. So the pros and cons are, sometimes a little more maintenance and repairs. They get the inspections. That could be a con. Also, sometimes the wear and tear on Section 8 properties are a little more than regular properties from what I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And the pro is that the rent is coming in every single month. And Section 8, now in our area, Macon Housing Authority has done a really good job of raising rents to market rent. About
That's
40,
important. Yeah, that's
yeah,
very important.
about 4 years ago, what started happening is that you had a property at Section 8 rent for 850, and an investor could get 1,100 for it. So
Mhm.
what they were doing is terminating the Section 8 rent contract and getting a regular tenant. So they had
Mhm.
this really big need. People couldn't find homes. So the housing authority came in and started raising rents, giving bigger vouchers. And that has filled some of that need to where some people have made their house Section 8 eligible now, and they're going through the process.
Okay. And how do you decide which of your properties fits a Section 8 opportunity tenant, or, like you have half and half? Kind of what are you doing in terms of Section 8 versus sort of a market rate, market renters? I don't know what you
It
call them.
depends on the size a lot. The 3 bedrooms, 4 bedrooms, we do Section 8 eligible. Also depending on, what part of town it is in. I've learned the area very well, so we stay away from some areas. And then there's some
Hmm.
areas that are just good rental properties that, we make Section 8 eligible. And then we have some properties that aren't Section 8 eligible, probably because of the price of the rent in that area of what the property is, and then sometimes location too.
That makes sense. So one more kind of question, and I think we're wrapping up here. So I remember as we were going through the numbers, one of the things that stood out to me was I felt that you guys were, very reasonable when it came to property management, right? There's a cost involved to property management, right? That's, you want a third party to handle everything. Obviously, they should be paid. So talk a little bit about, property management, how that factors into the overall costs of having the rental property and, what you guys do differently as property management versus maybe some of your nearby competitors.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing for us, I mean, we're very reasonable with our prices. We're very market, we're in the market of what we do. And there's things like I don't, as an investor myself and dealing with other property managers, I just don't like to be nickeled and dimed. I don't like all these little things. So, like our maintenance fee, anything under $500 is included in your management fee that you pay to us, where other management companies will charge a maintenance coordination fee on everything, whether it's $10 or $1,000. They're going to charge the 10%. Anything over 500, we charge that money. We also add some extra things into our management, like annual inspection. We're upgrading our systems, which is part of the, you paying that fee to us, even a system where we're qualifying tenants before they even view a property. We do self-access showings. We've invested in that to show a property more. We only have so much manpower,
Hmm.
and we take tenants through qualifications before they can view a property, and they're able to view it, do a self showing, which is great because your property can be viewed more, which can get it a chance to get rented more. Things of that nature, we're putting the systems in place. The biggest thing that our team does, and I gotta commend them for it, is their communication. I think a lot of people really appreciate the communication. People just want to know what's going on. They don't want to be left in the dark. And that's one of the things I didn't like about other property management companies is I didn't feel like even if it's bad news, just let me know,
Hmm.
and don't drag it on. So that's one thing we pride ourselves on for sure.
Yeah, and I've appreciated that. I mean, the team has been great to work with, and they've reached out when something's going on, and if I needed to reach out about something, they're super responsive. It's been fantastic. So couldn't ask for a better partnership there. Well, with that, so everybody, I'm going to say one, thank you, Mike, for coming on, and we'll post links to Mike's business phone number. Feel free to connect with Mike directly because he's always got some opportunities, and it's something that I'm going to continue to look how I can invest more of my funds into the things that the properties that Mike's got. So we're, going to be doing more and more things. Thanks again, Mike. Really, really appreciate it. And we'll schedule some follow-ups because I think that there's more to talk about in the future.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thank you so
Cool.
much.
Thank you.